about that those associations or relationships he had with the mathematicians and with Harvard, and I think with MIT to some extent as well.
For sure, MIT too.
What from what you observed, what's the reason behind him having developing those ties with Harvard, with MIT, and with certain professors and others associated with those institutions?
He really was profoundly interested in that area of science and in the brain and in, I mean, if you were in Stephen Jay Gould or the major scientist on happiness, I mean, it came, I believe, from a genuine area of interest, not from anything.
And how did he become friends with them? How was he able to spend time with them? Meaning, did he donate to the university and then they were kind of, it was mandatory fun for them, or did he have relations with them where he would,
I don't know if
host them, or
I don't know
what?
if the chicken or the egg came first.
Okay.
But when I met him first, I mean, he was already doing a lot of this stuff. This is not, I've read, so this is why I'm saying this. I was not responsible for this area of interest. I mean, I certainly, sorry, just to bounce a second before it slips my mind and I leave something out. There was an institute in New Mexico called, anyone? The Institute of, it's very famous. We're not talking Alamos. Anyway, all right, there's a very famous institute in New Mexico. You can look it up. It'll come to you the minute you put it in your computer. And there had some of the biggest brains ever. That relationship came through me. So that's me. And that is because my father was one of the major scientific, my family fortune, when I had one, came from scientific publishing. And when it started from the thing that you were asking me yesterday, my father was in the Second World War, I told you, and he won the Military Cross, and then he actually was part of intelligence back in the war, and his job was to interrogate German scientists and prisoners of war. And then that parlayed into business with Springer Verlag, and then into Pergamon Press, which was the scientific journals business. And he had an interest, he believed that its knowledge is what would prevent war, and the biggest scientific discoveries, well, not all of them, but many of them coming from the Eastern Bloc. And that's how we have the relationship with Santa Fe Institute, and Murray Gell-Mann specifically. And I introduced Epstein to Murray Gell-Mann. Sorry.
This is the Santa Fe Institute?
Yes, thank you. And Murray Gell-Mann was there, and Murray Gell-Mann and Epstein got along very, very well. And he was the man of the clock.
So do you know whether, so when you meet Mr. Epstein in the early 90s, continuing on, so not what he had done before, why do you think, from what you saw or what you heard, he had the relationship or wanted to have the relationships that he had with Harvard and with MIT?
So I think that may have come with Wexner. I'm not sure, but that's something that I think that Wexner maybe had a relationship with Harvard, and that he used that relationship to, I believe he funded a lot. And if he didn't, that his clients, of which Wexner obviously was one, would fund, and he would then arrange the fund or organize the fund, or I don't know.
We'll take a break in a minute, but just to kind of set us up for what we're going to talk about next. We talked yesterday morning about Mr. Epstein's kind of business and how he had money. Did he seem to live beyond his means as far as what he was making? So did you ever get the sense while you were with him that it was suspicious or curious how he was able to have the funds to, buy, 2 planes, an island in New Mexico, the ranch, almost unlimited funds.
You said it perfectly. I thought it was astonishing, but I didn't have any reason to believe that it came from anything nefarious. I saw him work. I never saw him really do anything other than be on the phone. There's that. And he had a lot of meetings, but he had a lot of accounts. And he dealt with pretty much every financier that you could care to mention. And if I could have access to the names, I'd be able to tell you which ones you were. I just don't remember them all. But in every bank, Goldman, Lehman, all of them, to my mind anyway. And most of the major businessmen at that time, he was in the Council of Foreign Relations. So you had access. That's an extraordinary list of people. It just is. And then you asked me about his business. So I thought about it last night, how to try and explain what it was. And I think the best thing is to focus only on Wexner's business. So I was present for some of their meetings in some of their business. And I listened. And so things that I personally recollect, and I know I heard, was that he would, when I told you yesterday, I think that he would, no detail was too small, so he would do the contracts with the staff, I think. And I saw that myself. And he also organized all the trusts for all the children. So if Wexner had kids, and no, if he did have children. So every time there was a child, he would create a trust for that child. And these were complex financial structures that would contain stocks of the various businesses. He restructured, when I was there, Wexner's business in its entirety, as I recollect. And then not only that, but there were business interests. So Wexner owned or built or designed, or I don't quite know how to characterize it, but New Albany, which is a center outside of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio specifically. And he built, I remember this conversation, he built himself a very large house, like truly enormous, and it's one of the biggest private homes I've ever been to. And he built all the houses around him, and I'm like, this is so random, why would you do that? And he said to me, well, because I want to make sure that the people around me are my friends. I want my friends around me and my neighbors. And I was like, well, whatever, okay. I've been around enormous wealth my whole life, and I've like, at some point I'm just like, okay, whatever, I get it. And so that's what he did. But Epstein ran New Albany, which included a country club and a golf club and I mean, gosh, your boss is one of the all-time great, businessmen in this area. You know what that is, and he certainly does. So there'd be that, and there was a business that Epstein, well, he told me he owned it. Of course, I can't say that for sure because I don't know, but it's a sports thing. Riddell, is that a business? Riddell's? I thought about it last night. It's red, and it had hats, helmets. Riddell's? Riddell. Yeah, Riddell's.
Okay.
Now, how he owned that, well, he told me he owned it. But how he owned that, but that was before I think I came in and he had it. Or he said he did.
Got it.
And he had other businesses. I know this notion that he did nothing and he just was a grifter and whatnot. Okay, I'm not going to say that's not true, but it's not what I saw and it's not what I believe is true. Not because it couldn't have been that he didn't grift or whatever the word is of people, but I saw what I thought looked like real work.